I say, why not to everything. Russell Westbrook once said that, and I'm saying this. Welcome to High and Low. Good day and good night. Welcome to the High and Low Basketball Podcast. This is episode number 100 and Mamba, the Black Mamba, rest in peace, aka episode number 124. 24 is the number that was worn by the late, great Kobe Bryant. Kobe started with the number 8. It was a sum of 143, which was his Adidas camp jersey number. And then he wore the number 8 when he played in Italy as a kid. He would switch to 24 when he first got to Lower Merion before moving to the number 33. And then 10 years after joining the league with the number 8, he would switch back to 24 to signal a change, growth for the young superstar. It was a turning point for Kobe, a new phase in his life on and off the court. Regardless of where some less informed fans would rank Kobe on the all-time list, I shouldn't say less informed, man, but he is one of the greatest. Player who had 2 jersey numbers retired. In fact, the only player to do so. He scored 16,777 points and won 3 titles as number 8, and then scored 16,866 points and won 2 titles wearing number 24.
Damn!
Anyway, my name is Ike Amaechi, and today I'm joined by Sean Khan the Don, Sean Controversy. And around here, we live by a principle governed by the high and low lives of the world, and sometimes in parts unknown when kings hear, which means we talk about basketball, especially and specifically the NBA, and we talk about it at any time, anywhere, north, south, east, west, high, and low. This week on High and Low, we were supposed to pick our squads for the new season. See, these guys do a horrible job of hiding their biases. They're masking their allegiances. I was going to ask them to just to toss their loyalty aside and pick a second NBA team to cape for this season and then honor that choice. But we can't do that. Not today. We're going to scrap that idea, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But we're going to have a very fun discussion about superstar swaps we're going to do that anyway, but we're going to have that discussion here. I have a bunch of scenarios with superstars that are swapped for one another, and then we're going to see who wins, who loses in that swap. Stay tuned for that. Before we lock in, let's check in. So it was supposed to be Sean, Mitch, and King from Parts Unknown. The Peyton Pritchard, Robert Williams, and Marcus Smart of High and Low. I think Sean is the Marcus Smart of that group. Actually, no, you're more like the Robert Williams. But Mitch and King jumped ship minutes before we were set to record this episode.
Where are you going? You men are all alike. 7 or 8 quick ones and you're off
Sean,
with a boy.
So I take back everything else. You are the Steph Curry of High and Low. Your teammates left you with the bag, and now you have to carry the franchise. How are you feeling about that right now?
Yeah, I'm apparently a man of many nicknames, but I think an appropriate nickname today would be Sean Solo.
Ooh, I like. Whew, look at this guy. I love that. Sean Solo. Hey, Sean Solo, I appreciate your time this week. Thank you for joining me. Listeners, thank you for joining us for yet another installment of the program. Another week, another episode. More NBA, so more High and Low. This week in NBA history, the true king, the first of his name, relinquished his throne. But first, we go to October 3rd, 2005. In the shadow of the malice at the palace, one of the most infamous moments in NBA history. A moment that saw players from an opposing Indiana Pacers team brawl with fans, spectators. Detroit Pistons fans were brawling with the Pacers team, specifically Ron Artest, Jermaine O'Neal, and Steven Jackson. So Ron Artest was reinstated on October 3rd, 2005. See, after the initial altercation, Artest, Jackson, and O'Neal had been suspended indefinitely by the NBA. Eventually, the suspensions were amended. O'Neal got 15 games, but he lost $4.1 million in salary. Captain Jack, Steven Jackson, He was suspended for 30 games and lost $1.75 million in salary. And Ron Artest was suspended for the remainder of the season, which would turn out to be 86 games, which included playoff games. And he lost almost $5 million in salary. Tough, man. Malice at the Palace. Great documentary.
All right, you guys, what's next?
On October 6, 1993, King Michael of House Jordan, the one and only king, the first of his name. You'd understand if you watched House of Dragon.
Love it.
Love that show. Michael Jordan of the Chicago Bulls announced his retirement after 9 seasons.
Yes, that's what the king does when you tell him to f*** off.
4 months after leading the Bulls to their 3rd title in 3 years. Now, of course, Jordan would announce his return in March of 1995 and continue his reign as king. King Michael, first of his name.
The king has returned.
House of Jordan. I like that, House Jordan. He should release a line of shoes called House Jordan. But hey, with a dragon on the side or maybe on the lip. I'm giving ideas out for free right now. Anyway, that's a little something for the NBA history nerds. Things are certainly happening in the NBA, so let's talk about it.
Let's talk about something important.
We have a listener question this week from Bigums in Thousand Oaks, California. Shout out to Bigums. Always coming with the wonderful questions. This one is more, it's half comment, half question. Bigums says this: can't wait to hear your opinions on the new season. Keep up the great work and keep asking and answering unique basketball questions. The most important question today is, where's the Iron Sheik? What happened to Hugo? Look at Bigums, man. Great question, Bigums. What happened to Hugo, Sean?
Oh, you guys haven't heard? Well, the only way I can explain what happened to him is explaining this movie that I watched when I was younger. So have you seen the movie Billy Madison with Adam Sandler? It's a movie about this rich 20-year-old something going back to school to complete grades K to 12 so he can take over his dad's hotel company.
Oh, back to school to prove to Dad that I'm not a fool.
And there's a scene where Billy, who's Sandler's character, is getting bullied in high school, and he has an epiphany of sorts, and he feels guilty about some of the kids that he used to bully when he was in high school. So he ends up looking one of these people in the phone book, and he calls to apologize. The guy he calls is played by Steve Buscemi, legendary actor. And after Billy apologizes, the camera pans to a piece of paper in Buscemi's room, and he has a list, and on the list it's entitled People to Kill, and he crosses Billy's name off the list, grabs some lipstick and smears it all over his face. So that's Hugo right now. He's listening to all the ratings that he got last week and the overall shots he's been taking for the past 120 something episodes. So Hugo's at home, he's making a list, and he's wearing lipstick.
Oh, and he's it's like Cape Fear, man. He's doing his push-ups and his
Exactly.
he's got his
getting ready
tattoos,
for war.
his new tattoos.
Wearing lipstick.
Smearing lipstick all over his face. I love it, man. The visual is so perfect. Bigums, I hope that answers your question. I think that's pretty accurate, Sean.
I think so.
Hey, Bigums, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Just another reminder to High and Low Lives, if you want to leave a question, just like Bigums did, just, we can answer it on the show. But you got to drop a DM on TikTok at More High and Low, Instagram at Get High and Low. Links are all in the show notes. It's time to put a plastic bag over this segment's head and poke one hole in that thing. Just one hole. When we come back, we're going to swap some NBA stars and deal with the ramifications. We'll be right back with More High and Low. This moment is brought to you by High and Low listeners. This week, we had listeners share their 5 most overrated, overhyped players coming into this new NBA season. We heard from Landis in Huntington Beach, California. Shout out to all of our High and Low Lives in California. Love to be there right now. Landis' top 5 are as follows, starting with number 5. It's got Anthony Davis, AD. I think he's overrating himself at this point. AD. Number 4 is Anthony Simons up in Portland. Some people think he's a good, competent number 2 to Dame, successor to CJ. Not gonna lie though, his catch and shoot, the numbers do not lie. Go check him out. Number 3 is Jamal Murray. Okay, well, I'm surprised by this one. I don't know, or maybe not. Maybe last time we saw him, I think it was in the bubble. Maybe the bubble effect is real. Who knows? Number 2 is Jason Tatum. JT really showed out last year, and I guess we're looking for another leap this year. Number 1, though, is LeBron James. Okay, another surprise from Landis. But I guess we're expecting too much from a man that's about to turn 40. Well, not about to. He's 38. But, anyway. LeBron's been defying logic for years. So I don't know if we want to doubt him just yet. Anyway, great list, Landis. Thank you. Appreciate you. Now, let's get back to high and low. We are back. I'm Ike Amaechi, and I'm here with Sean Khan, aka Sean Solo. I like that name, man. I think you got to claim that on Instagram or TikTok or something like that. That's nice. Actually, you know what? Sean Controversy is still top notch. Can't beat it.
So many possibilities.
So many options, man. Hey, once upon a time on High and Low, we used to get into a lot of hypotheticals and concoct scenarios. And, it's been too long since we had one of those fun conversations, but of course with a purpose. And we're going to look at different situations here and swap stars. We're going to have these stars swap teams. And Sean, you'll pick a winner and a loser in that swap with the reason why, of course. I'll pick a winner and loser. But it's going to be fun to see, just to think of who these players would be on these different teams. But yeah, let's get right into it, man. Kawhi Leonard to the Lakers, and then LeBron James to the Clippers. Think about that swap.
Mm-hmm. That's a crazy swap. Actually, all of these are actually really, really good comparisons. And but for this one, I'm taking Kawhi and the Lakers, and it's mostly an age thing. Even though LeBron seems to be defying everything we've known about aging.
So weird.
I think if we're doing it for this year, I'm taking Kawhi because I think he's ready to have a healthy year. And if you've seen his off-season workouts and the way he looks super jacked. His quads look like they've grown like astronomically somehow. I don't know if that's good for his health or bad for his health, but it seems like he's hit the gym, and I think he's ready to have a healthy year this year. So I'm taking Kawhi.
Nice. I'm gonna have to agree, man. Kawhi looks jacked. We're looking at training camp, and he looks solid. When someone comes back from injury, you can always tell when they're favoring things a little bit, or they're still working through some things mentally.
Yeah.
And Kawhi just seems like, he's a cyborg. So I think he's
well-oiled machine.
Yeah. Kawhi next to AD sounds enticing.
Yeah.
Although on the other end of it, the Clippers had a better record last season, barely. I think there were 42 wins last season, but that was without Kawhi. So if you add even an old LeBron, if you add LeBron to that roster, you can add maybe 4 to 6 wins, which can make a huge difference in the West.
Yeah.
However, Kawhi improves the Lakers exponentially on both ends. So Lakers win.
If Kawhi's healthy, is he the best player in the league again? Is he in that conversation?
Great question. Kawhi, for a moment, people saw him as the best player in the league.
Like when he took out Giannis and they won 4 in a row against the Bucks.
Yeah.
I could potentially see him doing that to Giannis again, even as good as Giannis played the last couple of years. If Kawhi's healthy, he shuts everybody down, and he's so good offensively, and his mid range is so consistent.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
he's fresh.
Yeah, exactly. And he knows, like, he's okay. Well, I'm kind of injured. I'm not fully injured, but I'm gonna take the rest of the year off because I don't want to like aggravate it again. So I'll come back next year and I'll win a title.
Yeah, that's how he's operated.
Exactly.
He's like, yeah, I'll come back. I'll win a title and then get back. You guys fight over the scraps while I'm gone.
Exactly.
Kawhi's a top 5 player automatically. If he's healthy, he's a top 5 player. Where he fits into that top 5, I think we'll know within the first couple of months of the season.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of top 5 players, the next swap here, what if we had Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic swap? So Embiid to the Nuggets and Jokic in Philly.
This is crazy because this is the MVP and the runner-up for MVP of last year, and the two most important figures of the resurgence of the big man. So I love this one. I know Mitch would be all over this one. He's a big Embiid guy, so he definitely would pick Embiid. Just kidding. Just kidding. You all know he's a big Jokic supporter. So if you've been listening to the podcast and you've heard me talk about these two and comparing these two all throughout the MVP run last year of Jokic, I always said Embiid, I would pick Embiid in a one-game situation. I think he's a better basketball player when you break it down just for that one game. But if I had to pick someone to build my team around, I think I'm taking the consistency of Jokic.
Yeah.
I like the all-around, his health, his all-around game, his passing, his court vision. I think I would rather build around Jokic. I think Embiid has too many question marks in terms of his personality, his health. He has shown a lot in the last couple of years, but he seems to always fade down the stretch still. He's, his stamina is an issue. Jokic, he took his team to the conference finals. I think they lost in 7. Was that in the bubble or the year after the bubble? But
I was in the bubble.
It was in the bubble, so that doesn't really count. But he hasn't had a team around him for 2 years, right? It's like Murray's been gone, and MPJ is still trying to figure his stuff out, and serious back injury at the same time.
So catastrophic.
Yeah, I mean, if MPJ doesn't come back this year and become a thing, I think he should just leave the NBA and never come back ever again, because it's 4 years and he's played like 40 games.
Zion's played more games than him, and that's saying
crazy.
A lot. Man.
That's crazy. Yeah. So as much as it pains me to say, because I still think Embiid is a better player, I would take him. Jokic is the guy I would build around.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Wow. Last week, we heard King say that he likes the Celtics. This week, we hear you say that you're picking Jokic over Embiid.
I hope Mitch doesn't hear that. I just don't send Mitch the link this week, or take away his Spotify account or something. I don't know.
Jokic in Philly. Surprised. Let's see if we surprise ourselves with this next one.
All right, you guys, what's next?
We got Jason Tatum and Zion Williamson. So that's Tatum to the Pelicans and Zion in Boston. I can't even picture this one. Let's try.
I don't know why this was asked, because I think, like, in terms of like basketball and X's and O's and everything we know, like there's an obvious answer here. Tatum is the clear answer, but for me, it is Tatum to the Pelicans, but it's not for the reasons you may think. We're all watching the news recently, and we've seen all these hurricanes happening. I'm just thinking about the people of New Orleans. If they get hit by another Katrina and Zion is in New Orleans, he's going to eat all the food. Like, and at least with Tatum there, there's more food and resources to go around. So yeah, definitely New Orleans wins that one.
Damn. Okay, you went there. For the record, Zion looks very strong, very healthy. He looks good this year.
Without
Kind
pause.
of like Kawhi. Just came in looking fit, lean, tall. He said that he was in the best shape of his career. And, he's only had a 3-year, 4-year career. So I don't know how much that says. But he looks strong. His knees are still knocking, which makes me nervous. Hey, let's just see what he looks like on the court. Personally, I think that Zion to Boston is very interesting, only because Boston's a better team, right? And you just have to think about who Zion would be surrounded by in Boston. Playing next to Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams. He's pretty explosive. You lose a bit of the shooting. You lose the defense with Tatum. But I don't know. Zion Williamson to the Celtics, I think that's where I would go with this one.
Yeah, if he played a full season and he was a star last year, obviously it would be a lot, closer of a conversation. The Pelicans on paper have like a pretty decent roster. At least they're like starting 5. I just, when an organization has lost for so long, it's like, and then they put together this like, group of like bubble all-stars who've always been like second or third scorers but are really good players, and then they're expected to be like top 1 or 2 guys now. That's how I see the Pelicans, and it's like they have to get over the psychological hump of being a bottom feeder in the NBA. It's going to be tough for them. I think Zion is the key, because if he's healthy and he's projected to be this mega superstar, without him, and if you put Tatum on that Pelicans team, I feel like they're probably good too. But when like Ingram and CJ, whatever his last name is, McCollum, CJ, whatever his name is, those guys are like, bait, like, they're not alphas, but they have alpha talent potentially. But I think they need like a true dog. Like, yeah, you need that, but then win 50 games or 48 games. It's gonna be tough for them. But
I see your point. I think the positive side of that is that if you've looked at some of the best teams in recent years, they just have a lot of good basketball players. I think Toronto Raptors are just a prime example of that. You just stuff your roster with good basketball players. Never mind great or having 3 superstars on your squad. You got a couple of superstars or even one superstar surrounded by guys that know the game and that can just make the right play at the right time. Then you're going to be a good team. And I think, like you said, they're halfway there. I think mentally they just got to think of themselves as being one of the better teams in the NBA. And I think Zion Williamson on the floor with them gives them that sort of bravado, that confidence. Brandon Ingram's, he's been in one too many losing situations.
Exactly.
For him to be the guy that everyone can turn to. But I think Zion and Brandon Ingram with CJ McCollum.
It sounds great on paper. It looks amazing on paper.
It does. And they got Jose Alvarado, who I love watching, especially when he tries to run that little game.
It's amazing.
He hides in the corner.
Love it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Keep doing that, man.
Exactly. He's got that like Rondo / like Marcus Smart / everyone that the Raptors fans hate, that type of like dog annoying mentality, which I love.
Gets under your skin.
But yeah.
The person that you would love to have on your team, but you'd hate to play against.
Exactly.
And they've got Herbert Jones. Like, this is a name no one really talks about. Herbert Jones,
he
but
played so good last year.
Yeah, and he's probably going to start this year.
Yeah.
They got Devontae Graham, who made a big splash when he was in Charlotte.
Yeah,
a few years back. They have a solid squad. I like it. I threw in an extra one here. This is a bonus one. I made a last minute change. I got Russell Westbrook going to Chicago and DeMar DeRozan going to the Lakers. So Russ for DeMar. Look at that swap.
I think this is like a product of, there's like been a lot of talk in social media lately about DeMar DeRozan saying that he thought his like signing with the Lakers was a done deal in 2021.
Yes.
and obviously all the rumors around Russ and what his role is going to be, and is he going to be part of the team come when the season starts. But it really doesn't matter because I truly think anyone instead of Russ is a better option at this point. He's just good enough that he demands playing time, but he's so dumb and inefficient when he plays that he actually makes your team worse, and it hasn't changed. And what's there to tell me that's going to change next year? Nothing. Like he's not getting any younger. The best part of his game is his athleticism, and that's not going to improve anymore. So DeMar to the Lakers, and we all saw how good DeRozan was last year. He was a legitimate MVP candidate for the first 50 games of the year last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this one's easy. I think DeMar and the Lakers win this one.
It's difficult, quite challenging, almost impossible to disagree with you.
You almost had me for a second there.
Russ is a conundrum. I am trying to figure out how a player of this caliber could not show some sort of growth and improvement.
Exactly.
He's been in the league for what season is Russ going into now? 14th season? Russ is old, man.
We're old. Man, 13 years of you remember him as I remember watching him play in college.
Exactly.
Clearly watching him play in college.
But he hasn't changed his game at all. It just doesn't make any sense, to be that stubborn, to say that I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to continue to do it, even though everyone is telling me and advising me that I should change, that I should not do it. Like Russ shooting threes, shooting 29% from beyond the arc should signal to this guy, if he pays any attention to his statistics, that you shouldn't just stop shooting threes. But he'll continue to do it.
He does pay attention to his statistics. Maybe he pays attention to the wrong ones, but tone it down a little bit. Maybe average 17 points a game and only shoot around the rim. We've always said this for a decade now. We've said this about him. But yeah, it's crazy. I don't know what was in the water in OKC, but I feel like him and Durant, both of them, they both lacked something in terms of their personal growth. Obviously, Durant is one of the greatest scorers of all time, but he's never won a title by himself. He joined the best team of all time to win a title, but even his health now is deteriorating, and it's evident that he never hit the gym like he should have. Westbrook, in a similar vein, never practiced the right things the right way, and he had 14 years to do it.
Yeah.
So
it might be one of the biggest conundrums. I solve that Rubik's Cube, please, somebody. Here's a fun one. Jaylen Brown and Pascal Siakam. So Jaylen to the Raptors and Pascal, the spin master or the spin doctor, to the Celtics. I'm gonna sit back for a second and just let you cook with this one.
I actually thought this was the most interesting one because I think both of them are healthy and they're both really good. The Embiid and Jokic one was also really good too. But for me as a Raptors fan, and for the controversial ratings that Siakam got, I thought this was interesting. So I think the Celtics win if they acquire Siakam. Brown is awesome, but you got to remember Siakam is a 2-time All-NBA caliber player. Brown has never sniffed the All-NBA. I don't think he ever will. I don't think he's quite on that level, and I say that in the most respectful way. I feel like he's very close.
I try to be respectful. I try to be polite.
But I think he's just maybe a quarter of a tier below Siakam. Even though ESPN has Jaylen Brown ranked 22 and Siakam ranked 30th. Explain that to me, ESPN. Like 2 times, like he was the guy who was all NBA last year. Like how is he 30th? Maybe there's more depth at the 2 guard than there is at whatever position Siakam is listed at. So yeah, I'm not sure how they rank Siakam that low, but I mean, Siakam, we all talked about how he was a beta last year, or how he was a great beta. He stepped up and he was the leader and the alpha of that team last year. And there was times where they were a playoff team. They were a good team last year. I think they won 49 games last year. So they weren't a joke, and I feel like he still is the best beta, if potentially in the league. I think Jaylen Brown was the best beta this past year. But I feel like you put Siakam on a team and he's like so much more dynamic. His defense is awesome right now. I think with him it was all mental, and I think he just needed to kind of get over the hump of like being that alpha, which I think he made huge strides last year. Brown, as great as they were and how as great as the season they had, he showed some really big deficiencies in that, especially in the finals. Like I think he had an astronomical amount of turnovers, and like bad, like Russell Westbrook-esque turnovers, like dribbling off his foot, dribbling off defenders, just really, really bad decisions, really, really bad plays. Everyone's capable of that, but I just feel like Siakam, he is a perennial kind of all NBA, maybe third team all NBA type caliber player, whereas Brown is just a half a tier below that.
Wow.
Mitch is going to love that.
Yeah. Let's play around with one more. Ja Morant and Trae Young. So you got Ja going to the Hawks and you got Trae Young going to the Grizz. How do you feel about this one?
So this one is also very interesting. It's tough for me because I like Trae much better as a person. I'm really beginning to dislike Ja and his dad.
Really?
They both seem very immature to me, and it's really annoying because if it was me, I would expect him to act a certain way. Maybe this is like the old school coach mentality of me. I expect him to act a certain way, and this guy's like doing the gritty on sidelines, and it's just like, dude, just stop, man. Like, grow up. But he's having fun.
The gritty's made its way over to football, huh?
Yes, I do. And there's actually been some hilarious, like, bad ones. Like, there was this one, like, tight end that tried to do one, and it was hilarious. But that being said, if Ja is healthy, he is a better player. So that injury was just really, really bad. Like what they call a bone bruise last year. And bone bruise is like pretty much a fracture. It's like if he put pressure on that bone bruise, he would have been fractured. So yeah, it was a serious injury. But if Ja is healthy, he is a better player. He was an MVP candidate last year before he went down. I think they were talking about him being the favorite for MVP for the first month or two of the season. So that's his ceiling. Trae, the thing about Trae is like he has a green light in Atlanta, right? So like he can essentially do whatever he wants. So I feel like if you put him on a court with better players, he wouldn't look so good. Even though his team isn't that bad, he just doesn't have anyone on his level. Like they got the John Collins and some of those other guys out there that aren't DeJounte Murray's there now. Yeah, so maybe we'll see Trae, either become more efficient or take less shots. But I think Ja is the choice here. So I'm going to say Atlanta wins if they acquire Ja for Trae.
I really wanted to disagree with you, but I can't. It's hard, man. Ja, where Ja goes, I go.
Yeah.
Now, am I the biggest fan of the gritty? Nah, but Ja Morant is box office.
Yeah.
Box office. Like, this is a guy that you put him on Atlanta turns into a perennial playoff team, potentially a perennial contender. He makes his team better. He galvanizes his teammates. He's just a natural born leader. And this is on top of the fact that he's one of the most talented players in the NBA. Ja Morant, 100%. I like Trae Young. I think Trae Young is one of my favorite players to watch in the NBA. I think he's a magician. Like just some of the shots that he can get off. He gives me those Reggie Miller vibes.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Reggie Miller scoring 8 points in like 6 seconds or something like that, something insane like that against the Knicks.
Yeah.
Trae Young, he's a player that could do something like that.
You know what the comparison you made about Miller is? Like, they're both villains, and they both play that
Yes.
villain role so well, which is really entertaining to watch.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I think we're both on the same page in terms of appreciating players that will step into that role as opposed to just hating them for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I can totally see Trae in that role. But Ja is just, he's too good.
He's too good. Yeah, but he has the injury question, right? Like, and with a guy that relies on his athleticism so much, that question mark looms, and where does it lead you in this decision? And I still think he's young enough that you got to go with him, but with an asterisk saying that if he's injured, then Trae isn't a bad choice either.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things that I discovered about John Morant in the last couple of years is how smart of a basketball player he actually is.
Mm-hmm.
He shows you that intelligence on the court, but I started to see it last season when he was out for a bit, and everyone was making a big deal about the fact that the Grizz, went on this incredible run while he was out. Like, oh, well, how valuable can he be if his team continues to win without him? But Ja was coaching on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Like, he was in his teammates' ears. He saw the plays before they did, and he was there. He was vocal. He was the second head coach. And he's a young guy, and he's already got such an amazing grasp of the game. Like, his IQ is so high. And I think that's the one saving grace for John Morant. I do agree that it's scary for a guy who relies on his athleticism to that extent to think of injuries really plaguing his career. But then I also think about the fact that he's big-brained. He'll figure out another way. He's not Russ in that sense.
Right.
I feel like his game could evolve, and he can continue being not just effective, but he can continue being a top player.
His mentality is different for sure, and he's still like a blank slate. Like, he still has so much growth and learning to do, and he's already so good and smart, like you said. I think you made a comment a while ago and today about him being like box office, but he loves to like make that highlight, and like he'll go to every length to like dunk on a man or jump over some guy, and I feel like that side of it he needs to rein in a little bit. That there'll be opportunity for him to do that, like all over the place. He doesn't have to force it, and I think once he kind of figures that out and rounds out the other aspects of his game, we will see, like you said, the next evolution of John Morant, and I think he is capable of that.
Yeah, like that's the best case scenario. Show me a John Morant who still has his athleticism, but his game has evolved because he's so intelligent on the court. Yeah. He's being selective with those highlights, like with those big plays that he wants to see on ESPN.
It was Derrick Rose. Is Derrick Rose's MVP year? That's like
exactly.
That's what we want to see.
Yeah. But don't end up like Derrick Rose.
Don't get
please.
injured.
Please, John.
Have you lost your mind?
Hey, this was fun, man. We got to do this again.
I think we should just cut the other guys out altogether and just go the two of us for the rest of the way.
Look at this. Sean's solo indeed. Actually, technically, you're not solo. I'm here with you, but
it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, man.
Why the fuck I can't shoot 3-point shots?
Anyway, that brings us to the end of this episode of High and Low. So thank you, Sean Solo, Sean Controversy. Subscribe to High and Low anywhere you find podcasts and make us a part of your weekly routine. You know where to find us. We're on Instagram at Get High and Low. We're on TikTok at More High and Low. We're on Twitter and YouTube. Links to those are all in the show notes. So where can listeners find you, Sean?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram at Sean_controversy and on Twitter at controversy.
Nice. So once again, music is by Live and the Enjoy Music Group. You can find Live on Twitter and on Instagram at LYVE. Additional music is by Sonny Rockwell of The Goodness. Can't find that guy anywhere. Sound design is by Vonn+Abrahamm. This is a Vonn+Abrahamm podcast, just in case you didn't know. So on behalf of Sean, I'm Ike Amaechi. Thank you for listening to High and Low, and we'll see you next week.
May the force be with you all.
I thought you were going to go in a different direction. The first of his name.